Welcome to the Put Up Your Spooks Holiday of Horrors, where we take our dueling review show and mull it with some spooky Christmas spice. The ingredients are as follows. Take one episode of 80s staple Tales from the Crypt, mixed with a bit of 90s So Weird, and Fear-ment. This week's theme,
Christmas.
I've thrown us for another loop. We had to do Christmas, and I couldn't find any Christmas episodes of Are You Afraid of the Dark? I couldn't find any Christmas episodes of Goosebumps, so I had to dig way back into my annals and remember a show that I did watch, which technically aired from 99 to 2001, so it's stretching the rules just a bit, but it was Disney Channel's So Weird, which was a show where Mackenzie Phillips is a musician, and she and her family are like on the road playing music and solving mysteries.
Was it usually a supernatural show, like in this episode?
It was usually a supernatural or like alien show.
It was kind of like Partridge Family meets X-Files?
I guess, yeah.
All right.
Pretty much exactly.
Nailed it.
Imagine my surprise when I found out about Mackenzie Phillips later.
Yeah.
This was a show that I did watch at the time and then basically just forgot about until it came time to do this episode, but I did remember the theme song. So Weird episode, The Fountain. Fiona, our main character, and her brother Jack are at the mall Christmas shopping. Fiona has to buy a new Christmas CD as per her tradition, something I could really get behind. And a creepy guy keeps scoping them from the background. Fiona's mom has to play an emergency gig. Some fundraising band fell through, and they want her to fill in. And Fiona's really bummed out because all she wants is to have a Christmas at home with her family, a perfect Christmas, just like tradition. Jack says he can't remember something that he was supposed to tell her, and Fee's like, whatever. She goes and keeps on shopping because she needs to find her CD. She's very depressed about the fact she's not going to get a perfect Christmas with her family, so she goes and sits at an abandoned soda fountain. And the creep, who calls himself Nick, gives her a cocoa sleigh ride, which is...
I laughed when I heard that.
Which is... He explains as a delicious drink. He tells her that Axemas will be good even on the tour bus. So Fiona drinks the drugged cocktail and goes, quote-unquote, back in time to relive Christmases past. Past them gets trapped outside in a blizzard, and they're all basically going to die. And she's like freaking out because she still remembers that she's 14, but now she's stuck in her 12-year-old body, and she's telling everyone all the stuff that's going to happen. And she sees that this particular Christmas isn't that great for these guys because the roadie that they go on with is his Kiss tour gets canceled.
You mean Squatch, the roadie?
She goes back a little farther in time until she's like 10 or something and sees that her mom is wicked sad because their dad had died. And I thought it was weird because instead of letting these younger actors just speak, they used sped-up chipmunk voices of the main actors, and it was weird and crazy. So she tries to write herself a note that she'll look at in 5 years or whatever, and she tells one of the other boys, her cousin I think, to tell Jack that she's going back in time and not to drink the drugged cocktail from Nick, the soda jerk, at the mall. But unfortunately she bounces back in time again, so she realizes it didn't work. And as Jeff pointed out to me, that was why Jack in the beginning said he couldn't remember something. I had already glossed over it by then. So she flashes back in time again. She's a baby, and amazingly her dad, it's a time when her dad is alive, but not really because she's drugged by the Cocoa Sleigh ride. He dances with baby Fee, and everyone's happy, but the exact same thing that happened in present day happens where her mom has to play an emergency benefit concert, and so little baby Fee sees that, things have always kind of been this way, and that's just life. And maybe it's not so bad, and with that revelation, she flashes back to present day, but she learns something, that as long as they're all together, they can be happy, even if they're on a tour bus. So they try to play it off like she wasn't drugged by a crazy soda jerk. She asks her mom if her dad ever danced with her as a baby, and they say, yes, all the time.
One of the things on her checklist of a perfect Christmas, aside from getting all these gifts, is the dancing to Christmas music.
Yeah.
Like she's deeply unfulfilled.
So that's where it
without
came
this
from.
Christmas dance. And then we find out that her father, before he died, used to dance with her on Christmas. But as she was flashing back through her life every 2 to 3 years, she'd be speaking like a 14-year-old, talking about things that hadn't happened yet. She had amazing memory. She like knew down to like the week and the month when every single breakup or mishap or job or car breakdown was going to happen.
About a month from now, you'll meet this girl named Skyla. And she'll dump you too.
She was trying to get on the phone or get a car ride to this mall where the Magic Soda Jerk was, and everyone around her was like, whoa, she's flipping out. She's talking about getting a ride to a mall, and she's been drugged by this Coco sleigh ride, and she thinks she's 14. You know, even though she learned a powerful lesson about how Christmas is wherever you are with your family, by the time she got back to 14, she probably would have been on like Xanax and Prozac and in therapy, because as far as her family knows, almost every 2 years she had like a weird psychotic split. That's where she believed she was 14.
You know, they shouldn't have had Jack have that recollection, because maybe when she went back to being a baby, she realized it was all okay, so she didn't do any of that stuff in her other flashbacks to 14 and 10.
You know, it's sad that Looper and Butterfly Effect hadn't come out yet, because I really feel like they
maybe
missed
they
some
had
tricks. You know, she could have like carved a message to herself on her skin.
Oh yeah.
Watched it show up as scars.
But again, she was going backwards.
She was going backwards.
That's what
but it was kind of like Quantum
Coco
Leap.
sleigh ride will do to you. Yeah.
She was leaping within her own lifetime, and it was out of control.
But then they have a wonderful Christmas on the tour bus, where Fee suppresses her experience, and then Nick lures a hobo into his cab with promises that he'll see his family again, so the drugging can continue.
I would say that you need a Coco sleigh ride.
It had the production quality of Tales from the Dark Side, and woof. It was so slow. It dragged for a 22-minute episode. It felt like an hour.
Well, I think the problem was they were really trying to hit the family drama aspect of it, and that's a tough sell when you have kid actors and stuff.
A, the acting was terrible. B, there were no stakes at all.
Except possibly blinking out of existence?
I mean, maybe if she leapt back to before she was born.
Honestly, I don't remember any of the other episodes, but I have to imagine that the stakes are a little bit higher. This was like a fun holiday kind of break from the norm episode.
That child actor, the Fiona, her voice was very unpleasant.
Especially in chipmunk mode.
And for most of the episode, she was just monologuing a mile a minute with no air for anyone else to speak or react to, for the most part. There was like no music beds or anything. Like, it just dragged. It was like watching a 20-minute monologue by a child actor with a bad voice.
That's exactly what it was.
Yeah.
It wasn't like that at all. This is one of those revisits that don't really hold up. But there is a So Weird podcast completely dedicated to So Weird.
Well, I pity them when they cover episode 213, Fountain.
I don't pity them. I envy their blind devotion.
Why don't you join that podcast?
Maybe I will. Can you hand me my Coco sleigh ride, please? And then I can be drugged into the stupor that allows me to love everything unconditionally.
Yeah.
You need a Coco sleigh ride to have that kind of blind devotion.
Yeah, Coco sleigh ride sounds like a sex move, or some euphemism for something unspeakable.
Something that a hobo killer would certainly give to you.
Yeah. He probably needs a fresh hobo to perform a Coco sleigh ride.
Because where I come from, everybody gets a present at Christmas Eve.
And now it's time for my episode. And All Through the House, written by Fred Decker.
Writer, director of Monster Squad and Night of the Creeps. And RoboCop 3.
Directed by Robert Zemeckis.
Director of Used Cars?
So the story opens on a wintry Christmas Eve, where a man, played by Marshall Bell, motherfucking Kuwato.
Yeah, he had a really small role. This
and his wife,
spoiler.
Mary Ellen Trainor.
Mom from the Goonies, and more importantly, Monster Squad.
And she was in Die Hard. Yeah, she's got a crazy list
She was
of
also in
credits.
Scrooged.
Yeah, and she was in Scrooge.
Ho ho ho.
So, Marshall and Mary Ellen are up late by the fireplace on Christmas Eve. And the husband is being very rude to his wife, so she brains him with a fireplace poker.
Does it count as being brained when it stabs into your brain?
That's kind of what braining
I thought
is.
being brained was just like when you hit like someone with a blunt object. I don't know though. I don't base that on anything.
I think when you are struck in the head and significant brain damage is done,
You can call it braining.
I'll call it braining.
Good to know.
All right. So I don't know if this qualifies as a time to shrew record.
Well, but she's a justified shrew. It's implied that she's a justified shrew. He also says like, "What are you, deaf? Get me a sandwich or something."
What are you, deaf? I said let me have it.
He's terrible. That's what divorce
And
is
he probably
for.
has a mutant on his chest.
And he definitely has a mutant on his chest.
And I couldn't tell if she had any like bruises or anything. I mean, it must have been bad. It must have been a bad situation.
It doesn't justify
Braining?
cold-blooded murder on Christmas Eve while your daughter is upstairs so that you can
So
get the
excited that she
man's
can't
money
sleep.
because you're cheating on him. So that was a little spoiler. She brains her husband, and then her little daughter comes downstairs and hoping that Santa has come. And her mother hides the view of the body and puts the little girl to bed. And she is like cold as, like she is
Cold
frosty.
as the Christmas Eve snow.
Like
Cold
she
as Frosty's
just
balls.
went from murdering her husband to tucking her girl into bed, and like her hands aren't even shaking. Like either she's a true sociopath,
She's in shock.
or my theory is that she swallowed like a handful of Quaaludes
Coco Sleigh rides.
and Coco Sleigh rides to get this done, because her acting is not great in this episode.
Until the end.
So, she puts the little girl to bed and immediately picks up the phone and calls her sleazy lover to tell her that the deed is done and that they're going to have all the money soon. And she's actually like holding the will in her hand as she makes the phone call.
Oh, see, I thought she was reading a script because the reading was kind of wooden.
Yeah.
I thought she had a script in her hand, and it was part of their plan to like call so that the call would be recorded or something. And because she was like, "I know I wasn't supposed to call you, but it's done, and we're free," or whatever. She
Yeah,
said.
I think she's in the middle of this psychotic break.
Interesting. Okay. Well,
And
well, it didn't amount to anything, so I
And
guess I was wrong.
obviously her lover / co-conspirator who wanted her to murder the husband for the money was like, "Don't call me. Like, let's not have any phone records linking us around the time of the death." But she's so fucking out of it that she picks up the phone, calls him, says it's done. She, like I said, she's waving like the last will and testament in her hand. So next she drags her husband's body outside. And as she's doing this...
Not that much blood. For a head wound. A massive head wound.
I noticed that, and it pays off later. So she's dragging her husband's body outside, while the radio reports that an escaped mental patient dressed as Santa has been killing women in the area with an axe. So, like, that's at minute 7, and we're just fucking off to the races.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it starts hot and doesn't cool down.
That's right. So she's insulting the body as she drags it into the backyard towards a well, and the husband revives because he wasn't dead, and he tries to choke her, but no luck. So just when she thinks she's safe, the killer Santa, played by Larry Drake, a.k.a. Bubba from Night of the Scarecrow,
I recognize
AK
him from something, but I can't remember.
a.k.a.
what.
Durant from Darkman,
Yeah.
a.k.a. Dr. Giggles.
I'm drawing a blank on that one.
He's just this character actor that's been in a million schlocky horror films, and when you see him, you will know why he plays a deranged Psycho Santa quite well. So he attacks, and they have this far-ranging battle through the yard, around the house, inside the house. She slashes him with an icicle, and eventually...
That's an icicle?
Yeah, that she snaps off from the side of the well. And eventually she hits him with the blunt end of an axe and knocks him out. She makes like a dozen phone calls to the police where she's, wants to call and tell them that someone's there to kill her. But she also has her husband's dead body that she hasn't disposed of yet. And she's conflicted. And she keeps like calling the police and hanging up. And then they're calling back on an unrelated matter. Not like, oh, did you hang up? Were you in trouble?
Yeah.
They just call back and like, oh, we were just calling to let you know that a deputy is going to swing by to make sure that everyone's safe tonight.
There's a killer around your house. Not to worry.
And it's so weird that like every 3 to 4 minutes of frantic action,
did you say?
Phone call, so weird. And so she gets the bright idea finally in her drugged out psychotic stupor that if she can use the murderous axe to chop into her husband's head, it will give her the perfect cover for her crime.
No, the whole time I was like, "Safe? The killer killed your husband. What are you doing?" But then she calmed down and figured it out.
She calmed down.
Came down off that Coco sleigh ride.
So she went out and, after a couple tries, buried the axe in her husband's face. Little does she know that the Santa killer has retrieved the axe, and so she runs upstairs and goes to the closet to get her husband's gun. As she does this, the doorknob breaks off, trapping her in the closet. Not just any closet, a closet with a window to the outside, so she can see the Santa killer climbing up the side of the house towards the little girl's bedroom. So she's freaking out, and the little girl sees Santa and is all excited, and she's reaching down to help him.
I knew you were here, Santa. Come on up. I've been waiting all night.
And that's actually a pretty fun little sequence where
Yep.
she's like, come on, Santa, hurry up. And the killer, who's all battered and bloodied at this point, is like teetering on this ladder. He's reaching up with his bloody hands. And she's like, come on, I'll reach down and help you. Mom is losing her shit in the closet. Eventually, she just throws her body against the door until it breaks down. And she runs out without the gun. So she runs up to the girl's bedroom. The girl is gone. She fears the worst, runs downstairs. She sees her little girl safe and sound. And then the little girl walks around the corner and she's holding the Santa killer's hand. And at this point, the mother screams for the rest of the episode.
For at least 20 more minutes. No!
The rest of the episode is just her losing her mind as maybe her psychotic break ends or deepens. I don't know.
And this is where I have to hope they only did one take. And even still, Mary Ellen Trainor must have been exhausted after that.
Maybe they shot it out of sequence, and they blew out her voice and her energy with that take, and then they shot the rest of it, which was so
Maybe.
wooden and weird.
No! No!
Very schlocky.
Yeah. Well,
Very
it's okay
campy.
because the Crypt Keeper helpfully informs us that the killer preferred older women.
in pieces. Yeah, it makes you wonder, like, okay, is the Santa killer going to kill... Because the whole time, whether she's killing her husband or the Santa killer is after her or she's going after this guy dressed as Santa with an axe, we're all wondering, what's the little girl going to make out of this? Is she going to see mommy chopping Santa Claus?
Yeah, what's
Is she going to
worse?
see mommy killing dad? Is she going to see Santa killing mom? And
I guess it's all pretty scarring.
it's all pretty terrible. And then at the end, it's her holding Santa's hand, and presumably he's going to murder his mother in front of her?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's going to put her out Christmas for a long time.
And moms. I suppose that goes without saying.
So a very strange ending.
So, yeah, this one wasn't a story. It was just a romp.
It was a romp. It was lots of jump scares. It had some good gags, like the fire poker stuck in the guy's head.
Mm-hmm.
and the comedy about her wanting to chop her husband's head with the axe but not wanting to look, so she kept missing. It had a little more comedy timing than it did horror timing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just chaos, totally madcap and weird. But boy, what a turbo plot. We've had some turbo plots on this show before. This was a turbo plot, and going from that to the episode of So Weird was jarring.
Grinding to a halt.
Flying out the car windshield, kind of sudden stop in momentum.
Yep. They didn't even do a concert gig or anything. I think that's what they call them, concert gigs.
Naughty or nice?
So we'll start with So Weird. Body count.
One dad?
Oh!
Does that count? Because he was already dead, technically. Apparently, there was going to be a whole season 3 where he was resurrected by aliens, and it was going to be super dark.
What?
Or, like, he had been kidnapped by aliens or something. I don't know, there was a whole alien plot. And then Disney Channel thought it was too dark, and so they made them do a season 3 that was just goofy, and then the show got canceled.
Should have gone dark.
That definitely should have gone dark.
So I will give you body count 0.5. Scare factor.
100% zero.
Gross factor. 0.
Zero, yeah. Even if you count molestation.
What
and
the factor?
hobos.
I mean, if you've seen Quantum Leap, you kind of get what's going on.
Yeah.
It was like...
It's pretty straightforward time jumps.
It was like Christmas Carol, except she was just going back 2 years at a time.
Well, she didn't have that much life to go back to.
No. It's kind of minimum, which
Yeah,
is weird.
Minimal, what the factor.
All right, theme. Christmas.
Good?
Yeah, I'd say it's pretty high.
I mean...
all about the meaning of Christmas.
Uh-huh, yeah.
All right.
Togetherness and family and ho-ho-hos.
Tales from the Crypt. Body count 1, maybe? The husband? And
Yep.
presumably the mom?
Yeah.
Although we don't see her get killed.
Crypt Keeper diatribes don't count.
Scare factor, medium.
Yeah, medium. Pretty good.
Gross factor.
Yeah, pretty gross.
Santa Killer was pretty gross.
Santa Killer was pretty gross. The head wound was, sufficiently gross.
Yeah, they did a
and
real
disturbing.
nice job of showing that not only did the fire poker get stabbed into the guy's head, but also it was wedged in.
Yeah.
Which
And
had
when
to
it
pry
pulled
it
out,
out.
there was a deep hole there.
Yeah,
It was pretty good.
pretty good. Okay, what the factor?
I mean, it was... If you break it down as a story, it was like... Person gets into situation worsens, person gets out of situation one way or another. So that was a pretty straightforward story, but the fact that it was a psycho Santa killer and she was murdering her husband even though we don't know why, and the first thing that happens before anyone says anything basically is that she murders her husband, and there's an active kid in the situation. I'd say
And just picking up the phone every 2 minutes, where you're like, I guess we're all somewhat savvy, having watched true crime thrillers and mysteries. It's like every time you pick up the phone and call the police, like, there's a record. They're going to look into this.
Yeah, maybe not in 80s small town America.
Perhaps.
But like...
I would say medium.
Yeah.
What the factor?
Medium what the factor.
And theme of Christmas.
I mean, there was a Santa and there was snow. I think Christmas theme was a little lower than So Weird, but pretty on point.
Just for that tracking shot, the first 10 minutes of the
Where it's
episode
just pure Christmas.
was just pure Christmas. I'd say
Hearts and...
I'd say low to midland.
Yep.
On Christmas.
It was there.
So even though Tales from the Crypt
Looks
doesn't have a clear advantage on So Weird just by the point score, it was much more entertaining.
It looks like Santa's passing up So Weird this Christmas Eve.
Looks like figgy pudding's back on the menu, boys.
Hey, what's that over by your foot?
Oh, Jesus! I almost stepped in that. Is that a Coco sleigh ride?
It's not a Coco sleigh ride. It looks like a sheet of paper.
Oh, inside the Coco sleigh ride, there's a slip of paper.
What? Is there something written on that slip of paper?
Let's see. To Jeff and Ryan, written December 10th.
Is it from Santa?
No, it's from us, 2017. It
What?
says, "Don't watch So Weird for the podcast."
Rerun Back in Time for Your Life!
Merry Christmas!